Welcome to Nikon Photography, and today I have some images here in Lightroom, the raw files that I took with the Canon EOS R5, the new camera, the 45 megapixel camera. And I've decided to make a video how I edit the images. And before we do that, I want to show you some of the shots unedited, the raw files. So I spent one day in Hamburg with the Canon R5 and all about photography. So if you see a couple or people here, I talk to these people on the streets and photograph them right where I meet them. You see here some autofocus. This one is off, this one is off. And I just want to give you a real world user experience. This is not a lab test. I don't photograph stuff that's not moving like buildings. I try to get as real, as close to a scenario in real world as possible. So all these people I talk to on the streets and photograph them with a variety of lenses. I had 3 lenses with me: the 20mm f2.8, the 24mm f1.4, and the 85mm f1.2. You see those up here. I use the 85 most of the time. We got 1500 shots here. I also shot some images pretty dark, so we can take a look at the capability of editing, and I also took some shots in a pretty high ISO, 50,000, to get a look at how well do the images turn out when shooting at ISO 50,000, and these are all 45 megapixel files. So I just want to give you an overview here of the raw files, how they look like straight from the camera, and then we will go and take a look at how we can edit these files. As I said, most of the shots are taken with the 85mm 1.2 lens. It's not the RF version, it's the EF version, so the old one. But it's a beautiful lens, and I shoot mostly wide open. When we take a look at the aperture, let me just take a look. You will find that many images will be with f1.2, f1.4. There are only a few images at f1.6, 1.8, and the rest. So obviously the 20mm f2.8, that is where these images come up, 260. But you see, I rarely shoot at f4, f5, f6, f7, f8, f9, f10. I rarely shoot at these settings. I mostly shoot at f1.2, f1.4, especially to test the camera for me. Can the camera handle it? And we can go right in. I also took some self-portraits. So I put the Canon, the EOS R5 on a tripod. You see here up here the settings. We are 8000, 5000 resolution, so it's 45 megapixel. It was the 21st of August. Right now it's the 25th. 85 1.2 at f1.2, and we can zoom in on this now. See if the face is sharp. It's a little bit blurry. Let me see. 800ths of a second should be good. And I also think the image stabilizer was on all the time, so there should be image stabilization. So I have here some presets. These are the presets that I always use, and the idea is to edit right now. So you see how you can edit the images from the Canon R5. And I haven't edited them, so this is the first time for me also. So let's now take a look at just these self-portraits. So this is the first image, and it goes up to... Let's just edit these self-portraits up to here. All taken at f1.2, all taken by myself. And so the idea is to edit one image. So let's choose this one. Click synchronize, choose everything, and now all these images here should have the same look as this image. And this way we kind of have already edited the files. You see here the setting, f1.2, ISO 50, 1/800th of a shutter speed. When I take these self-portraits, I often have a camera in my hand because I want to take a portrait of a photographer. That's the story in the image. You see here some chromatic aberration. When you shoot wide open f1.2 with the EF 85 1.2, you got some chromatic aberration. So it's not the best lens on a technical level, but it's a beautiful lens in terms of how the images look like. So I think that the look that I chose here is too normal to me, so I just clicked on Gringo, here on Gringo, made it a little bit warmer, and synchronize again. Let's go back to the first image and then take a look at the second image. And I think we got a nice look here. I rented the camera for one day, the R5. at IPS in Hamburg. I think it's a beautiful way to rent a camera. It was really nice that they had it, because the R5 is kind of not so easy to get hold of. And it was really nice testing it. I have 1,500 images here that I took on that day. I also had the Leica M10 the next day, so it was a really great photography weekend. And I want to talk a little bit of the user experience from somebody who actually uses Canon gear all the time. I do own the 6D, the 6D Mark II, the EOS RP that's holding in my hand. I'm holding in my hand the 5DSR, which is a 50 megapixel camera. You see here the camera that is taking the pictures, the EOS R5 is standing here on a small tripod, looking up to me, and this is how the images are taken. So here's my camera bag, and for me this is also the first time I look at these shots. When I zoom in, we're going at 200%. Let's go to 100%. You can see the image quality. You have to think about it as f1.2. It's actually the widest you can go in the 85mm area. Before I gave it back, I also took some shots with the camera. I took these now with the RP, so you see a different resolution here, 24 megapixel, just to have some images with the R5. Let's take a look at high ISO. I think that's a good idea. I haven't taken a look at it. Let's go to ISO 6400. I have 4 images. Well, no, let's go to 12,000. Okay, so now we have 11 images that are taken at ISO 12,800. Let's go take a closer look in a bigger screen. So this is now ISO 12,800. Now on normal modern cameras, that should be no problem. Now with 45 megapixel, that is a high megapixel camera. And the more megapixel you have, the more noise will be in the image. That is just physically the physics. If you have a 24 megapixel camera or a 45 megapixel camera, which is kind of the double pixel number, you do have more noise. So let me just choose a preset here. You see up on the left side, you see the final image. Maybe let's do something crazy like this one. Now, as I'm editing here, I feel that the computer is a little bit slower than usually. I do have other high megapixel cameras like the Hasselblad H3D or the Canon 5DSR. But I feel now the camera is a little bit slower. Takes some time to render the image, which is totally fine. I don't have a problem with that. So these images are taken with, let's take a look at the lens. We have the 20mm f2.8 at f22. To get to ISO 12,000. This is not a best lens on a technical level. It's not the sharpest lens. It's a pretty cheap lens. I paid 200 for it, but it's a great super wide angle lens, 20mm. It's super light, it's small, it's cheap. It is an open aperture f2.8, which gives you a nice blurry background. And I'm interested now in taking a look at the image quality in terms of noise at ISO 12,000. And you see here some noise. The images look a little bit dirty, but I think it's totally fine. Let's go maybe a little bit up in terms of ISO. Let's go to ISO 25,000. I have 6 images here. Let's take a look at those. And let's choose just one preset here. So I want to have this as a real world thing. So I actually want to edit the files like I would edit any image. I'm not going to use noise reduction here. You can use the noise reduction. I mean, we can zoom in here. Here you see a lot of noise. We can put in the noise reduction and you got a lot of less noise, but you also reduce the detail. But I think this still looks fine. I still can read this pretty well. Put the noise reduction away. It looks more noisy. So it's 25,000 ISO now. And let's take a look at the images. First of all, I'm not a technical photographer, so I don't really care that much about the technical side. If the images have vignette, that's not so much a problem for me. To me, I want the emotional quality of an image. My clients don't really care that much. The people I photograph are people, and the images are for them, so like a wedding photography. And they are not technical on images, they're emotional. They want to see the image in a beautiful way, beautiful color, and that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a beautiful overall image quality. I don't zoom in on images and look at the most ugly parts. that is not what I focus on. But you see here the noise. Let's undo everything to see how is it actually if we look at it from a normal standpoint. We can also edit it just right here. We don't need a preset. We can just edit it pretty quickly. And I think it's still acceptable for outside photography when you have nice light. And it's a pretty high ISO, 25,000 is pretty high. But I was curious to see, does it look ugly immediately, or can I still kind of work with it if I have to? If I really have to use 50,000 ISO, which I don't have to usually, I was curious how good this camera can handle it. So now we're at ISO 51,000 with the 20mm lens, which is not the sharpest lens. And I'm shooting at f2.2, which is also crazy. Let's take another preset here. You see, I can just hover over one of these presets, and up on the left side up here, I can see what happens to the image. If you also like to use presets, you can find all these presets I have here in my preset collection. Link is in the description below if you're interested. If not, totally fine. You don't have to use my presets. Use any presets, create your own. It's a big help when editing many images. So I have all these images here, and some of them look pretty boring color-wise. It's pretty flat, not high contrast. And I want to bring some color in. So I go back to the first image here. And now I'm going to synchronize everything. And now all these images will have the same look. And now let's take a look at how the images look like. Now, first of all, I think it's still, I can edit it pretty nice in a normal way. I can use any preset here and it will probably work. All have different looks. And when we zoom in, let's take a look at the image quality. I mean, it's a 20mm super wide angle lens, so you see it's not that straight. It's not straight lines here. But that has nothing to do with the camera. This has to do with the lens. So don't judge it now because we're looking at the camera. I think we can still see a lot of detail here. You kind of can still see what time it is if this is a clock. I mean, you still see a lot of the detail here, even at 200%. Obviously, you see a lot of noise also. Still, it looks kind of dirty. But when you zoom out, I think it's totally fine. Let's put some noise reduction to it. And I think it's still, like this, it still looks like a really nice image. And when we go to 100%, let's take a look. I think it still looks fine. Some images fall apart when you try to edit them at high ISO, that the color is gone and the blacks look super ugly. So you don't always have the chance to edit images taken at high ISOs. You put the exposure a little bit up, or here the shadows, you put them a little bit up, like I do here to the maximum, and the blacks just totally ugly. They are also ugly here, but it's still in the overall sense here, it's still fine. Now let's take a look. Okay, here I think I got some. Let's take a look at how do the images look like before. Okay, this kind of looks weird. Let's choose another preset. I think this looks still fine. Okay, so it's just I'm not a technical photographer, so I'm not going to judge the technical side this much. When you push the blacks too high here, of course the noise is, this noise is now incredible, but I mean, an image like this would still be totally fine. But you see now the image is getting dirty when you don't have nice light. Nice light means when there is stuff that is wet, a lot of black and a lot of white, so a lot of dark areas and white areas, it's more difficult to handle the editing. When everything is kind of lit by the same light source, which is the sun here, I think we got some really nice, this would be a nice image. I could still print it with noise reduction. I would still get away with it even at ISO 50,000. Let's see if I got even more. 50,000 is the maximum. You can get one level higher, 100,000, when you go to the high option. Let's choose a preset here, anyone, doesn't matter. Just quickly. Now you see the noise here. You see noise everywhere. So this would be, I mean, you can still use it like an art image like this. Looks like a film camera result. But But for those who are interested, I'd say these images, you can use images like this, get images like this at ISO 50,000. I think we can get with to 12,000 ISO without losing much. I think that's a good end here. Okay, let's go into editing. So I would just talk a little bit with my experience. I do use many Canon cameras, so I'm used to using those cameras. And this was Martin, he was following me around. Let's take a look at some other self-portraits here. Again, I had the camera on the ground with a small tripod. I had the EF 24mm f1.4 shot at f1.4. I always try to shoot wide open when I test a camera for me or lens to see, is it actually usable wide open? Can I use it? Does the autofocus work? Does the face recognition work? Does the camera capture my eyes? And when I have sunglasses, can it see, actually, is it clever enough to see where my face is? So here I'm shooting at 85 1.2. Is the camera clever enough to use face recognition even when my face is hidden behind the glasses and I don't look into the camera straight, I look somewhere else? And just like the other cameras that I use, like the 60 Mark II or EOS RP, the autofocus works incredibly well with the live view. I have a remote control in my hand here. So I push the button here. I usually hold it somewhere where you can see it. I push a button on it, and the camera takes a picture, and it works pretty well. Now I have to tell you, I'm not a technical photographer, so if there is a little bit of, if the image is not 100% sharp, where it should be sharp on the eyelid, which actually it is here, but if it's not 100% sharp, that's not necessarily a problem for me if the image looks nice and the emotion is caught. I'm always looking for the emotion. So we will take a look at some people photography and I show you what I mean. So we picked up the camera. I rented it for 1 day. Outside of the store, I took some shots here just outside of the building. But then we took the tram. We went to the harbor. It was raining, so there were not many people. So I wanted to photograph people on the streets. I talked to people on the streets. I then photograph them right where I meet them, and they can buy the images later. But as it was raining and there were not many people out there at the time, it was nearly 1 o'clock during the day, we started with some self-portraits here. So I put the 85 1.2 to 1.2 and took the first portraits of myself with the remote control that I hold in my hand. I have this Canon RP with me in my hand just to have an accessory to tell a story. I want to have some images of me as a photographer for me later. So we all change, we look different over time. So I'd like to have images of the time right now. How do I look like right now? I don't need these images right now because I know right now how I look like, but in 5 years I may not. I also have a son and I want him to see who I was, so I have these images. I lost my father a couple of years ago and I don't have many images of him, so that is super important to me. That's why I love the flip out screen on these cameras. I personally don't need the R5 as a wedding photographer, which is most of what I do, and photographing people on the streets. 45 megapixel is way too much. It's too much hard drive space, it's too much capacity for the editing, it's just too big for what I do on a daily basis, which is photographing people. So I took these self-portraits here on the bridge, and then I saw on the other side 2 girls walking by. And they had a really nice atmosphere. They were fun and they enjoyed being there. So I talked to them and photographed them. Again, 85 1.2 at 1.2, you see it here, to see how does the camera handle autofocus. In my experience, actually we can just edit them a little bit here. In my experience, the autofocus on the R5 is on the same level as the autofocus on the RP or the Canon 6D Mark II. Both of these cameras are pretty cheap. You can get them for a little bit over €1,000 or dollars. And the camera of choice for me is the Canon 6D Mark II. And I think it's on par with the Canon R5 in many ways. I had many moments where I got something like this, where the face detection kind of went further away and photographed something in the back. I had this with kind of every photo shoot, but just for 1, 2, 3, 4 images. So I took some images. The autofocus was on the building, although I said face detection, IAF, and then it got the people right. At f1.2, Shooting people who are moving and laughing and smiling at f1.2 is not easy, but these cameras today with the dual pixel AF, they can handle it easily. The same goes for the Sony cameras. I mean, you will find a video on this channel, the review of the Sony a7 III, which is also a beautiful camera. You can get these images kind of the same look, the same style, the same autofocus capability with the Sony a7 III also. Not 45 megapixel, not the 8000 resolution here, at least not with the a7 III version. You need to go to the A7R4. But anyway, I mean, any modern camera right now, full frame camera sensor like the Nikon Z6, Z7 will give you similar images to this. But I just want to give you my user experience. And I love that you can focus on being with the people and not having to think about the camera. The next day I said I had the Leica M10 with the 35 Summilux lens. This is a $10,000 combination. The Leica cost 6,000, the lens cost 4,500, so it's 10,000, and there is no autofocus. So I was the Friday with the R5 and my Canon lenses, and the next day, the Saturday, I was with the manual focus only lens, coming from shooting like this, f1.2, face detection on, IAF on. I mean, you see sometimes the AF goes off, but 90-something% of the time it hits exactly where it should hit without you having to do anything. I don't have to set the focus point. I just start the camera, say don't use focus points, photograph faces, and then I just need to hold the camera in a way that the face is in the frame, and then most of the time the face is in focus. Now sometimes you see, now here the ear is in focus, I think here also, but the way I shoot, often I shoot with one hand only, and I'm in movement, the people are in movement. You see here the autofocus is a little bit off. I show this to show you that in my experience the AF is on the same level as on this of the 6D Mark II or the RP, by which I want to say you don't necessarily need this camera if you think the AF is going to be better than a 6D Mark II or RP or EOS R, which I think for photographing people it's the same quality. All the images you see here I can take easily with the 6D Mark II as well, or the RP. And you find many videos on this channel also at f1.2 that prove that. And I want to give you my real world user experience. Now 45 megapixel, the resolution here is pretty crazy. You can crop if you like, which means you can just crop the images, which I never do. So I always leave the images as I shot them. I never crop. It's just the way I do it. But there are people who want to crop, who need to crop, and still want great image quality. 45 megapixel will give you this. I see this camera rather more than printing large. If you want to make a gallery, if you want to become a photography artist, printing large is one of the ways to make professional photography art. Now I know this is a big statement and you can criticize me for that, but every photography that is really big in the art area, like Andreas Gursky, who's in the top 10 list of the most expensive photographs ever sold, and he's in that list a couple of times. He doesn't have one image, he has a couple of images that he sold for a lot of money, a couple of millions. The 99-cent image, the Amazon image, the Rhine image, most expensive photograph ever sold for over $4 million. These images are printed in a size that is double the size of me. So when you put me to the image is double the size of me. And because of the extreme size, you can put an extreme price tag to it, because these images printed that big are made for pretty big walls, which you only find in big houses or in big galleries or big companies. And anyway, so I just want to give you some behind the scenes stories to these images, how I felt using the camera. Again, all these people I photograph on the streets, I talk to them, they can buy the images later, and I've created a workflow. If you are interested in doing this also, when I started photography September 2013, I didn't make money for 8 months. The first way to make money instead of waiting for an email or a phone call for a photo shoot was actually to go out on the street and photograph people on the streets right where I meet them. I don't know their names, nothing, but I created a workflow where they can buy the images without me having to write any email. I don't send them the images by email, it all happens automatically. I just get an email where it says who bought the images for how much, and I don't have to do anything in terms of office wise. Everything is automated. If you want to do something like this as well, in the description below you will find information of how you can do this too. What I'm doing right now is I just set a preset, which is actually the sepia vibe, and I just copy it to all the other images. So I have talked to these two, let me put a sepia look, and let me leave it at that, and I copy this now to the next 10 images, 20 images, and you see all images down here will now turn to sepia. And I only have to change small things, make it a little bit brighter, make it a little bit darker. But in general, I think it looks fine already. Can make it a little bit darker. I just want to give you an overview of the experience with the R5. We met these girls again, and this time I shot mostly with the 24mm lens because I wanted to get it really different. I want to actually use the lenses that I have, and the 24mm is more difficult to use because it's a wide angle lens. Photographing people is not always so easy. You see autofocus, again, as I said, I think the R5 autofocus is on par with the 62 and RP and EOS R autofocus. Now, marketing wise, it has the dual pixel AF2, which is also great for animal IAF, but in my experience, autofocus was off maybe 5% of the time, 3% of the time, which is the same with the RP and 62. I mean, I'm shooting wide open here, f1.4. People are moving, they don't stand still for me. They don't care about helping me in the terms of autofocus, like please stand still so I get you in focus because I'm shooting wide open. They don't they don't care about this. I want them to have a great time. If they have a great time, I'm happy because then you can see it in the images. I'm never going to ask somebody to stand still so I can get the focus right, never. The next day with the Leica, I got images like this at 35mm 1.4, never having shot manual focus, and I actually got images in focus kind of super often, just like here with the R5, where I have to do nothing and still get great images. It's a different philosophy. The Leica will not give you great images if you don't work for it. You have to focus on the focus, otherwise the focus will be off. The R5 will do everything for you. You just have to make sure that a face is in the frame, and then you get the autofocus where you theoretically want it, which is in the face. And these are some beautiful shots that you can get easily on any street of town. Just have to go into the option of failing. I have to go to people and say, I'm a photographer, I love this. When I have nothing to do, I go out on the streets and photograph people. I do it because I love it, and you can buy the images later. And I show them some images of how that looks like. And this is what I do, and it works wherever I am. And I do it with heart, and I do it with love. And when I give love, I get love. In many images you see an emotional connection, and that connection is to the photographer. And I get that connection, like they know the photographer, because I give love and then I can receive love. And to me, the emotional connection is always important. I always have to create comfort for the people in front of me. So I'm always looking for giving the people a good time. And then you can see it in the image. I give them the permission to smile, to kiss, to laugh. So what I'm doing right now is I select the preset here, which is the Gringo. Changed it a little bit, and when I go now to the let's just copy this to all the next images just right here, synchronize everything. These were Spanish people, and I always love giving joy to others, and I have a girlfriend, and I only have a few images with my girlfriend, so it's not easy to take images right now because we have a son, and we can't do photo shoots like we used to with our son with us. And I'd love to have an image like this with my girlfriend. Camera around the neck, hugging. I'd love to have an image like this. No one has taken an image of me like this. So I think maybe I can at least do something like this to someone else. And I saw these two walking by, and I have to do it. It's integrity wise, I have to offer them the option to photograph them. When they say, I don't trust you, who are you, what are you doing? No, I don't want to be photographed, what happened to the images? All of this is totally fine. What is not fine is me having fear and passing these by when I have a great opportunity. I mean, it was still raining. There was kind of nobody around here. I mean, when you look at the photo shoot with the girls, this place on the Friday is full of people. There's the Elbphilharmonie, it's a new area. This place is full of people. People are sitting here everywhere on the weekends. This day it was empty everywhere. We saw the same girls, and these are the only people that actually were there. And so when I see a couple like this walking by, I have to go there, and I have to, from the integrity of myself in photography, I have to talk to them and offer them what I love to do, which is taking pictures. They can buy the images later, and I can make a living with it. I can control my income by the number of people I photograph. Which camera I use, it doesn't really matter. I don't have to use the R5. I rented the R5, cost me around 150 euros for one day. And it was totally worth it for me just to experience it. I never wanted to buy the R5, I don't need it. I have the 60 Mark II, a couple of them, and the RP, which I actually also don't need. I also just need the Canon 60 Mark II. It's the best camera for me. And I've tested many cameras. And I'm saying this to tell you, some of you who want great image quality, that you don't necessarily need the best camera. Invest in some great lenses. I buy all my lenses on eBay. This 85 cost 1,900 euros, $1,900. I paid 850 for it, and I can sell it for the same price even now after 3 years of using it. Lenses stay in value all the time. Cameras not. My cameras are done pretty quickly. The RP, the Canon RP, got to 100,000 shots within 6 months, and that's actually the maximum amount of images when you look at when you read the shutter of the Canon RP in the program, where you can read, okay, how many images have I taken? It will tell you that the maximum is 100,000, and I was over 100,000 after 6 months. So I cannot sell that camera because I already brought it to the end of the life cycle. Now, of course, the cameras can hold much longer, work much longer than just 100,000 shots. You can easily, in my experience, can easily take 500,000 shots with the Canon full-frame camera. In my experience, I know there are statistics that tell you when the camera broke. So there are sites on the internet where people tell you, okay, my camera broke at 20,000 shots. My camera broke at 100,000 shots. My personal cameras, I have the Canon 60 Mark I. I got to 900,000 shots with it, without any repair, without any sensor cleaning. And I got the 60 Mark II, which is at 600,000 shots. Two of them together, they are at 600,000. I have the RP, so I'm used to high number of images that I take. That day we took probably 2,500 shots. I just have here now 1,500. That's my selection. And this is the way I edit them. I choose a preset for one scenario. I synchronize the images from one shooting, like these self-portraits, and then I go through them and maybe just change a little bit, make them brighter, make them darker, straighten the horizon. That's what I do then with the images. Okay, I think we're done now. There are still many more images to come, but I just wanted to give you an overview of one day with the R5. And you will find, if you wonder how do I talk to these people, where do I stand taking these pictures, we actually filmed all these shots. So there was somebody, Martin, who followed me all the time with the camera filming. So he actually filmed how I took these shots, photographing people on the streets, photographing myself, and also these cars. He was following me and filmed me. So you see how I got to these images, and I wanted to be transparent to show you how quickly you can get a nice image. And you see 85 1.2 at f1.6, beautiful lens for everything. You can photograph a building with it, cars with it, details. It's a lovely lens. I love this. Used it most of the time on that day. Yeah, I think that's it. And it's now 9:30, still early. I hope I can give value to you. I know this was a lot of talking, and you will find in one of the next videos, or before this video, you will find me actually shooting these shots and see me take these shots, but you will not see me editing in that video, and you will also not see the unedited RAW files, and you will also not hear me that much talking about it. So you will then see how I actually took the images out in Hamburg on the city, but I will not talk that much about it. The talking, the showing you the editing, how the different presets work. I use these presets for all cameras. I shot the Leica images and edited them with these presets. The Fuji X100V review I did 1 month ago, I also edited with all these presets, and I just wanted to see how great do the images look like, because sometimes the sensor on the camera changes, and with it the colors change when you edit. So I wanted to see how do the R5 images look like using the same presets that I always use. If you like the look of these images, you can get the presets for under $1 per preset. I put the link in the description below. You don't have to buy from me. You can use any preset. You don't have to use mine. If you like the look of the presets, they work with any camera manufacturer. I highly recommend using presets, but you don't have to use mine. Choose any preset, create your own. How can you create your own? Let's do it just right here. So oh no, let's undo it. So here's an image. I put the shadows up, blacks down, contrast up like this, straighten the horizon, maybe make the sky a little bit different blue, and maybe a little bit more red into it, or warmth. And I mean, we can have this image and save it as a new preset just right here. Click here, create preset, done. And then I have a preset, can copy it to the next images, and you get the look with the different blue in the sky. So you can create your own presets, or you buy it from somebody who has already created a variety of presets. Okay, that's it. I hope it can give you value, and take a look at my other videos, because there are more videos coming with the R5. All tell a different story. Show you the unedited JPEGs, show you the editing process, I show you how I photograph.
Yeah, I don't ask for nothing but the sunshine. The race is going one day to blind my eyes, and birds fly around like you can move from wind, fly until they find the place where you have been. Ask for the direction and it's back in time. The workaholics they will say you died, but knowing you'd come back, children awaits you. She open them doors and make them faithful. Nightmares vanish, dreams come true. It's what they say every time they're seeing you. Time starts to tick, air starts to breathe. They wonder what means the day to me. I never thought about waking up in dreams. Never thought about being me. I never thought about just breaking it up. I'm breaking it stuff, I'm breaking it up.
Another day is born.
Come and wake me up.
Another day is born.
Come and wake me up.
Another day is born.
Come and take me up.
Another day is born.
Come and wake me up. Let them trees grow tall and the seasons go by while you won't leave at all. You're the hope and the strength they'll let her wake up to reach and one life to spend. You count our days, you count our time till then. It's you from the tummy we are born in until the day we end. Can't be bought, can't be taken. Give us light that got us through our happy ending. And each second we're living and each breath we are breathing is cause of you. But they cause you're not leaving, and if you come back just some hours later, the first thing I see in the morning when I wake up. and just open my eyes. Touch through my guys in disguise. Damn if you needn't, where's Christ? I'm a sleepwalker, walking the day when I'm sleeping. Don't know for sure if it's me that is breathing, that is leaving stat core. I'm looking for a solution. Life's an illusion. I need to feel it there. You can push it.
Another day is born.
Come and wake me up.
Another day is born.
Come and wake me up.
Another day is born.
Come and take me up.
Another day is born.
Come and wake me up.
Another day is born.
Come and wake me up.
Another day is born.
Come and wake me up.
Another day is born.
Come and take me up.
Another day is born.
Come and wake me up.
You and me,
Like the king and the queen, living more than just life and above the dream.
you and me,
But of the love for lifetime, we're above the skyline, angels fly beside us.
you and me,
Went from boy and girl to wife and husband, finally life became
you
fantastic.
and me,
The lovers couples can meth with, take love like addicts. Without you, I panic, without you I couldn't handle this stuff in my heart. Cause I had to separate those who fuck and who love. Cause most smiles ain't real, last words get lost. And you have found the love I want, and it's worth all costs.
you and me,
Like the king and queen, living more than just life and above the dream.
you and me,
Like the prince and the princess, and we love each other even though we've been dressed.
you and me,
Like the husband and the wife, making life so precious without money, but a child.
you and me,
The lovers couples can meth with, take love like addicts. Without you I'll panic.
the king for my kingdom, the prince for my bed. This is what I found in you, the father for my child, the boy in my past is you.
Alright, now close my eyes and remember you. When you're gone I have to depend on you. So when you leave I'm left with just some of your pictures, but I can't talk to them, neither squeeze them like I did. Yeah, I'm the baby, you're my mother beside me. Protect me at night, even in my dreams you guide me. Life was nothing until you gave sense to it, and as long as we're together there's no end to it. Now I love you from the bottom of my heart. I say I love you from the bottom of my.
You and me,
Like the king and the queen, living more than just life and above the dream.
you and me,
Like the prince and the princess, and we love each other even though we've been
you
dressed.
and me,
Like the husband and the wife, making life so precious without money, but a child.
you and me,
Like the boy and the girl, live and enjoy the new world, and nothing else first but you.
I love you, I love you, I love you, love you, I love you, I love you. The king for my kingdom, the prince for my bed. This is what I found in you, the father for my child, the boy in my past is you.
When we got ourselves, yo, the world don't matter. Doing work on leisure without a goal, there's no pleasure.
I love you from the bottom of my
Yo, from life till death, until the time will rest, I'll be forever hanging at your chest.
I love you from the bottom of my heart. You and me,
Like the king and the queen, living more than just life and above the dream.
you and me,
Like the prince and the princess, and we love each other even though we've been
you
dressed.
and me,
Like the husband and the wife, making life so precious without money.